Why is it at this time the right time for you to do a play-by-play of a team like the White Sox?
I have always wanted to be in the big leagues. From when I was a little kid, my dream was always to be a Major League Baseball player. And so to be able to get here eventually as a broadcaster is really coming full circle for me. The White Sox specifically is very exciting for me just because of where the organization is. I mean, when you look at what Jerry has done for this organization, he's a guy who lives, breathes, sleeps baseball. And when I met with Jerry this past weekend, it was exciting to learn and just feel his passion for the team and just how the history of baseball and how much he loves it and our shared passion for it. So the timing is right for me because I have done so many things in the course of my career in broadcasting. And the next step for me is to join a team, get to know the team better, and really join a community and move to Chicago.
Have you dug into this fan base, which is really, really tough on everybody?
I have. And I think that's the most exciting part because the thing that I've noticed is the passion. And that's all you can ask for when you have a job like this. Yes, I'm going to be the face of the broadcast along with Steve Stone, who's legend. And I'm going to lean on Steve a ton because everybody knows Steve in this market. But I'm excited about that. And I think that's all you can ask for as a broadcaster is for the interest to be there, is for the passion to be there. And what I can tell fans is that I'm going to match that passion. I am super excited about baseball, about learning Chicago, about this White Sox club that is forming together with all the young stars that are here. And give some time. And I think you guys are going to enjoy what you see on TV.
From CHGO, Vinny Duber.
Hey, John, welcome to Chicago. Kind of a question that might sound kind of big, but kind of how do you look at baseball and kind of what are the things about baseball that you like to kind of come out in your broadcasts?
So what's exciting about baseball is that you have time to talk and tell stories. And I think I cover a lot of different sports, football, basketball, baseball, but what makes baseball so different is just the length of the game and the ability to have conversations with your analysts. And I think that's what excites me the most. And when you work with a legend like Steve Stone, who has been and seen everything in the game, I think he has such a unique perspective. And for me, the way I look at this job is that I just want to be his point guard. I want to set him up. I want to pull things out of him. I want to put him in the best positions. And I hope that with our broadcast, fans can just take away one thing or learn one thing about the game or about the team every single broadcast. And I think that's why I can lean on Steve to do that. And that's what baseball provides. It gives us the ability to tell the time with the time.
Chicago fans have, they're known for having pretty good relationships, close relationships with their broadcasters. What is kind of the first thing that you want them to know about you as you kind of start to build your relationship with White Sox fans?
I approach my broadcasting like a fan. So you're going to feel the way you probably feel at home. I don't hide my emotions. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm an emotional guy. So when there's a big play, you're going to feel it. You're going to hear it in my voice. If something goes bad, you're going to be like, oh, you're going to know. And I think that's what my style has been. People can always recognize the energy and the passion and also just being prepared. I think that's something that people can never deny about my broadcast is that I'm always going to be prepared for the game and I always have my knowledge because that comes from my news background. When I go into any game, I always want to make sure I know everything that's going on and prepare. And maybe 10% of that information gets into a broadcast, but I need to be ready to go wherever the game may take it. And I just want to make sure that I have the ability to do that.
From the Chicago Sun-Times, Jeff Agrest.
Thank you, John. Congratulations. A couple of questions. How many games will you be calling for the Sox on television? And will you be staying with ESPN either during the season or during the off season?
Yeah, so right now, I plan on calling the majority of the games. So we don't have an exact number, but I want to be the voice and face of the Chicago White Sox broadcast. And the goal is to be there throughout September. So it was very clear, and that's something I talked with Jerry early on, is that whoever he hired, he wanted to make sure that that person, this was going to be their main priority. And I said, I'm very clear on that. And so that's the agreement we had very early on in this process. And that's the understanding that we have.
And will you still remain with ESPN in the offseason?
That's the goal right now. But I mean, still working through things. I mean, everything has happened so fast at this point. So I would love to still stay at ESPN in the off season and still do other sports. But right now I still have games left with ESPN for college basketball. So everything's kind of happening fast. So I have games I'm wrapping up with ESPN. I've got preparing for spring training, preparing to find a place in Chicago. So a lot happening right now.
Have you talked about with anyone what it's like calling baseball for 6 months? You know, the everyday grind of being the daily play-by-play announcer for a team. Have you been given any insight as to what that experience is like?
Sure. And I cover Major League Baseball games for ESPN Radio. So I talk to broadcasters every time I go to a ballpark, and I understand what it means to have to call every single game. And for me, I don't look at it as a grind. I look at it as an opportunity, because the more you're around a team, the more you get to know them. Like, that's why I want to get to spring training early, because there's so many new faces on this team that I want to be able to understand and know who they are at a deep level, so that I can have that explanation and be able to introduce them to the fans so that the fans have an understanding of who they are. So I don't see it as a grind. I see it as, let's go. Here's a chance to really get to know an incredible team.
John, which team did you grow up watching, and what are kind of some of the memories that stick out to you in terms of, like you said, you're getting excited when a big moment happens. What's kind of a big moment that sticks in your memory?
So I like old school broadcasters, like the Giants win the pennant, the Giants, I like those calls. Red Barber, I think Red Barber, the calling number 61, the home run. I think so. Like Red Barber's call, something that sucks out for me was, it was so simple the way he set up the pitch, and the way the fans were kind of booing, because it was like a 2-0 count leading up to the home run. But when the ball went into the stands, Red did a great job of noticing what was happening. There was a fight in the stands for the ball, and I think he said something to the effect of $5,000 to whoever caught the ball. And my style is, say what you see. What is actually happening on the field, in the stands? What are people seeing at home? And really talking to that and not having a prepared call. And I think that's more my style, like the old school broadcasters who were just very simple, to the point, and just let fans know like what's going on.
From the Chicago Tribune, Paul Sullivan. Go ahead, Sully.
Hi, John. Congratulations. Have you talked to Jason at all? And do you know him well? And what can you learn from his experience here?
I actually don't know him at all. I don't have a relationship with him. I know he's an incredible broadcaster. So I haven't had any kind of conversation or connection to him.
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm curious. Oh, thank you. John, if what your conversation with Steve Stone, which I assume you've talked to so far, was like, and what your impressions of him were for what your working relationship will be like.
Sure. So I had a great opportunity to meet with Jerry and Steve in Phoenix this past weekend. And it was funny because Jerry actually told me, all right, get in my car. And he drove me over to meet Steve at the restaurant. So that was a great experience. So Steve, we were only supposed to meet for maybe like half an hour, and it turned into a 3-hour dinner. Like me and Steve hit it off the bat. And what I wanted to know was 1980, like his magical year. What was it about 1980? And I think everyone can relate to that, because we all hope and dream to have that one moment in our life where everything just kind of comes together, right? And hearing him talk about his process, what led up to it, what it was like experiencing it, and then coming out of it and leading into his broadcast career. That was probably the highlight of the conversation for me, just hearing his story and his process.
Well, where was this? What city was this in?
So we met in his home in Scottsdale.
Okay.
We went out to dinner there. Yeah.
John, what were some of the questions they asked you about broadcasting?
So they wanted to know, first off, my commitment. That was a big thing off the bat. They wanted to know, obviously, I have a national platform with ESPN. Well, they wanted to know what kind of commitment I was willing to make to the White Sox. And I said, I am all in. I said, if I'm the guy, I'm going to be all in. They wanted to know my process, how I prepare for games, my style in terms of interacting with players. And I told them that I draw on my other experience in broadcasting. So I have a career in news, And even in sports, I was a sideline reporter before becoming a play-by-play. So I have a way of, I know how to talk to people. I know how to get information out of people, but also do it in a respectful way. And then I showed them that, as a sideline reporter, you're only on 20 seconds maybe. And in an entire game, maybe you're on for a total of like 2 minutes. But the amount of preparation you have to put into that, you have to be ready to go in any direction. So they just wanted to know that I could be prepared for the best game or a blowout and how I would handle that. I'm trying to think, what else did they want to know? Just my passion for baseball, my passion for Chicago. They wanted to know why Chicago, why the White Sox. I think what excites me about Chicago is, I think I got a question earlier about the fans. I think that's, for me, the biggest exciting part about Chicago, because it doesn't really matter what the team is doing on the field. There is this built-in fan base that is so passionate, and it's handed down from generation to generation that you're on the South Side, you're a White Sox fan. And for me, that's what I connect to. And I respect that passion. And even if they can be hard, I understand, because that's what sports is. Like, things are never going to be perfect. So I talked about just what excited me about Chicago and the White Sox, and even just the young players. I mean, thinking about the fact that I could watch every single night Luis Robert Jr. play, and the way he can affect the game, whether at the plate or with his glove. I said, for me, that would be the biggest thrill, because he could potentially be an MVP player one year.
Do you think that was the selling point, what you just said to them?
In terms of what part of it?
By talking about Luis Robert, your excitement about that.
Oh, I'm not sure which part was the most selling part, but I was just trying to be real with them. I just like watching the baseball. And I think there are some really good pieces here. As of right now, Dylan Cease is going to be the opening day pitcher, right? Like, so there are some really great pieces for the White Sox. And for me, that's what excites me.
How we doing there?
Good.
Congratulations. Just so you just kind of stole my question a little bit talking about Chicago. What is your most fondest memory of the city of Chicago, and how familiar are you with the city itself?
So I've done numerous events in and out of Chicago, and I don't want to come off as like a phony, right? Like, I don't know Chicago as well as a lot of people do. So what I want to do in terms of my broadcast style is let people know that I want to get ingrained in the community. I want to learn more about Chicago. And I've invited people, hey, hit me up. Like, what are some good food spots? I have a dog. Like, tell me where are some cool places to take my dog? Like, what should I know about Chicago? And I think that's what I bring, in the sense of, I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And I want people to teach me about the city so that I can become a local Chicago person, because I'm going to be here for a while. That's the plan. We've signed a multi-year deal. This isn't like some stepping stone place. Like, I am the Chicago White Sox play-by-play.
We all silly like the mayor.